Good morning, world. We've had some technical difficulties today. We have a special guest, so I'll have to take a break and try to get him. But wanted to wish you all to World Edition on Pod TV, soon to be a part of the Roku TV network. And live from the All America city of Morrisville in North Carolina in the United States of America, we want to wish you all a very happy India Republic Day. On this show, we talk about global affairs, innovation, technology, and what we can do to navigate on a pandemic that has really changed the world forever. Today we celebrate India Republic Day, the 73rd day, India Republic Day, when India on January 26th, 1950, ratified and adopted their constitution, henceforth making it a republic. Today, India is the world's largest democracy. And today we're honored to have with us Sanjay Puri, chairman of the U.S. India Political Action Committee, who will be talking to us about the U.S. India relationship today. What are the challenges? Where are the opportunities? And where does the US India relationship play into the fight for democracy around the world, particularly with the rise of China, North Korea, instability in the Asia region, and of course, the preeminent rise of China and also, let's not forget, Russia. We do know that we have Indians across this country and the world that listen to this show. And so I'm going to bring in Mark Lee, and then I'm going to take a minute, Mark, if we could email Sanjay and just let him know we're on World Edition, and we'll be bringing in our special guest to talk about India Republic Day. Thank you so much.
No, we can definitely do that. I'm going to email him and let him know that
Yeah, let
we
me call
definitely
him.
want him to come back. Or if you want to do that, that's perfectly fine and everything. But in the meantime, while I just strictly get some other news items that are going on, the U.S. Prime Minister says he won't resign over the lockdown party scandal. So that is one of the things that I'm hearing in the news and everything is that he says that he will not resign over the lockdown party scandal. So I think there had been some talk that Boris Johnson might be facing those kinds of troubles and everything along those lines. So about 2/3 of British adults say that Boris Johnson should resign as prime minister, according to a Survation poll, which was released on Wednesday. It's the third poll in the past 2 weeks to find that result, following a Savante Comrest poll released on January 11th and an opinion poll released on January 15th. Survation interviewed 1,117 UK adults online on January 25th, the day that the London Metropolitan Police announced that they were investigating gatherings at Johnson's Downing Street office. The survey, 3 out of 10 respondents said he should not resign at that particular time. So, the margin of errors on those things can be kind of significant, plus or minus 3 percentage points. But definitely that does sound like something that a lot of folks are concerned about and are afraid that there may be a change in government. A change in government in the midst of something like this is something very deep and all of that. So that is some of the things that we're hearing in that regards. The prime minister questions revealed very little other than Prime Minister Boris Johnson's future is still in the hands of what senior civil servant Sue Gray's report on the alleged lockdown gatherings contain, and that very little will happen until that report is published. So definitely it sounds like this is something going on in another part of the world, because we do like to let folks know that we understand some of the things that are happening in other parts of the globe, such as India and the UK, and not just here in the United States as well. So while I get over here and follow up with the letter to our guests and all, don't know if you have any thoughts on that while I get ready to compose a quick letter to him, and if there's any other thoughts of other news things that you would like to talk about as we continue this journey of finding our guest of the honor.
Well, I spent most of my time preparing for the India edition. So actually today, unfortunately, I'm not really prepared to talk about anything.
Well, that's okay.
But I guess we'll just wait for Sanjay to attend, and then if not, I'll probably have to jump off, and we'll try to reschedule. But the main thing is, yeah, totally. I apologize. I prepared a lot
No,
last
no
night
problem.
for the show, so I
No,
I'm
you're
really
good.
not.
And like I said, we just brought that up really quickly and everything, and I will still reach out to him. I do see that Shaquille has also popped in and everything. So I'm going to try to reach out to him and bring him in to the conversation while we continue to get ready for the gentleman from India. So, matter of fact, I believe that Shaquille has some roots from your lands as well. So maybe he can share some of his insights about his relationship with India while we continue to do that and get ready to get prepared and all along those lines. How you doing, Shaquille?
I'm doing well, thank you, gentlemen. How are you?
Doing
Good.
good.
We're waiting on standby for our guest, but the show today was we want to wish everyone a happy Indian Republic Day, 73rd Indian Republic Day, the day India ratified the Constitution, and we're waiting for Sanjay Puri, but I don't know whether he had something else that he had to attend, so I'm waiting for him. But the guest we were going to talk today about kind of democracy in India, what the perception is of what's going on in the U.S. He is the chairman of the U.S. India Political Action Committee. And then, of course, where does the U.S. India relationship get to now, given what we're seeing with China, given what we're seeing with North Korea, given what we're seeing around the world? Where are the challenges? Where are the opportunities? And of course, there's been some criticism about the Hindu state and nationalism on the rise in India, and whether or not there are religious minorities like Muslims and Christians who are being treated differently, and is India as non a secular state as it once was? But Shaquille, I know you have roots to India, so whatever insight you can share. But I mean, you're not really connected, but you do have a family of Indian heritage, correct? No,
Well,
you don't.
10 generations ago. So, I mean, you might
Oh,
as well ask Mark Lee about Africa. I mean,
oh, okay.
I'm that many generations away from it. I'm a British citizen, an Australian citizen.
Yeah.
My family are 10 generations in Fiji and 5 in the UK, 3 in Australia. So, I don't have any idea what's happening in India. I've never been there. I don't have any family that I'm aware of. I'm sure my bloodline runs back to India, but I really have no idea what's happening over there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just we're gonna be waiting for Sanjay. I'm gonna give him a call. I'm gonna let you guys run the show because I'm not really. I apologize, folks, but today I wasn't
No, no,
really
you're no,
prepared to
you're
run the
good.
show. But I'm gonna call him, and I may have to rejoin tomorrow. But let me see if he's gonna be joining. Okay. Hold on
Yeah,
one
and I might
second.
also send them an email and everything. Shaquille, how are things going in Australia? What are some of the news items that are happening
Well,
there and everything?
the biggest news for Australia is that today is in fact Australia Day.
Oh,
Um, so that marks that's a national holiday, a bit like Canada Day. I think they had their 150th anniversary a few years ago. So that's a big day for us. I didn't quite make it out to the fireworks. I was still a little bit spent from New Year's, but it's a great day to remember what it is to be Australian. Um, and I think very much the same as the United States. It's not, being an American, being an Australian, it's not really a nationality. So it's a nationality, but it's not an ethnicity. We come from all over the world. We share our cultures. The Australian culture rubs off on our culture, and our culture rubs off on Australia. And I think that's something that's worth remembering and worth celebrating. So it's a very, very good day for Australia. And I think it should remind every Australian how lucky they are to be an Australian, to be born here or to have immigrated here. One of my very, very good friends actually was at the citizenship ceremony. He's an Australian. Both sides of his family came on the first fleet as convicts. But it's always great to welcome new people to our country, and it's been great to be part of that.
what is the whole situation like with people coming to Australia? I know a lot of times when Nick's here, he talks about America being the greatest country in the world. And I know you're a big fan of America as well. But are a lot of people still continuing to come to Australia as immigrants? And are y'all having any sort of issues around that? Or are y'all still welcoming them with open arms? How is the whole thing seen with people in immigration from your opinion? I know it's just one personal man's opinion and everything, but I'm just wondering how the whole immigration is perceived in Australia, and if y'all are still welcoming people. Who knows? I might want to move there from Durham.
Look, I think that Australia much the same as Canada, the US, and New Zealand, is a very very good a very good country to come to, and it's very enticing for a lot of people. Obviously, with our proximity to Asia, we generally will attract Asian immigration, but we do have immigrants from all over the world, and that really is part of our multicultural country. And I think we're facing some of the same issues that America's facing. You guys have issues with the southern border, or don't have issues with the southern border, depending on who you ask.
Right.
We have what we call boat people or boat arrivals, where people are coming in predominantly from nearby countries like Indonesia that are entering Australia illegally, and they're jumping the queue in front of other asylum seekers. So there is a bit of hostility towards that, but by and large we welcome people to this country, and again, because it's not an ethnicity, it's a country you can come to. I think that Australians are curious. We're very, very playful. Our sense of humour might seem a little bit offensive to some people, especially Americans. They think that we're being quite horrible, but we're just not politically correct that much. But we just welcome people in. You're part of the family. And if I can just digress, I'll tell a very quick story. Friends of mine were recently saying that some Afghani refugees had actually arrived in Australia. Obviously didn't have very much other than the government support. They had a reasonably big family, and they went to this person's house, so that this person advertised on Gumtree, and they went to this person's house to try to find some cheap goods for their new home. And this person actually put on ads, in their workplace and around their friends, and actually managed to furnish this person's entire house, or his family's entire house. That's the kind of country we are. We have our flaws, every country does, but that's the sort of country we are. I think we're very generous people, and countries like that, are somewhat few and far between. That's why I talk so fondly about the United States, because the United States is made up of people that are very, very kind and very, very generous. And I think that Americans, in the skirmish of political division, sometimes forget that their fellow person is a kind, generous person. They just might not agree politically. And I think it's really important to remember that. And as I said, same thing with Canada. You can go to Canada, it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, you can go to Canada and you can really become part of that community. Same thing for New Zealand as well. So, I know that we all are going to have issues when you have multiple cultures and multiple, different ideas, religions and beliefs and all those sorts of things trying to merge together. There's always going to be conflicts, but I'd rather have that sort of a country than to have a country where you don't have any of that diversity.
Well, that makes
Yes.
a lot of sense. I know you're still trying to reach, and I'm still trying to
Yeah, I
reach him
think
as well.
he may have had, because he was expecting to be on at 10. So we'll just have to continue, and if we can't bring him on, I'm just going to go ahead and focus on India for a few minutes, and then
And that's one of
probably
the
we'll
things
have
I
to
was going
chime.
to do.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I was going to do was focus on India. And one of the ways I was going to focus or shift it back to India and everything was, we just recently celebrated a great man's life and everything, that being Martin Luther King. And there is no doubt that he was inspired by many things, but one of them was India and Mahatma Gandhi's crusade of nonviolent resistance. As a matter of fact, they said that in February and March of 1959, he embarked on a 5-week tour of India to learn more about the movement that inspired him. And apparently, while he was there, he met with Prime Minister Pandit Nehru, among others, and he talked with students at New Delhi University, and eventually he made his way to Calcutta, which at that time, and I guess maybe it's still known as India's intellectual center. And there is actually a street there, Martin Luther King Sarana, which is a street named for him in the heart of the city, and not that far from the Victoria Memorial. So it does sound like there is some of that common tie and everything, and definitely he was using the India struggle to help him with the struggles that were going on here as a way to kind of like see how to do it in the sense of nonviolent resistance and all of that. So I'm just going to mention that really quickly, since that was something that I had found in some of my studies and everything as well.
So yeah, I guess what the insight I'll share today. First of all, there is a strong connection between India and the U.S. with the King movement and civil disobedience and
Yeah.
Gandhi. And really, when you look at the U.S. India relationship, and hopefully we can reschedule and bring back Mr. Puri later in the year, or Mr. Chatterjee. We'll try to do that this week. Tomorrow, by the way, we do have a special guest, Jeremy Robbins from the New American Economy, who's going to be talking about skilled immigration. It's now the American Immigration Council and the role high school immigrants can play in terms of the labor shortage, which we're seeing in the United States. But they're basically, you know, India up until the 90s was really considered a developing country. And it wasn't until Manmohan Singh was the finance minister and became the prime minister of India that you started to see India opening up from trade. So typically, you think of the India technology companies like Infosys, HCL, Wipro. These are the big conglomerates, the call centers that you would have, and all so many immigrants from all over the world coming from the tech sector. So India started opening up. The other big game changer was the U.S. India Civil Nuclear Cooperation Deal, which Swades Chatterjee and other leaders like Sanjay Puri were able to work with President George W. Bush to get that agreement signed so India could actually have the ability to test nuclear weapons. And this was a really big deal for the U.S. India relationship, right, economically. And then trade is also important. So today there's about 375 million middle class Indians. When my parents came from India in the 1960s, there was hardly a middle class. So these are Indians that can buy homes, they can buy cars. Now, COVID has obviously hurt the economy there. We don't know whether it's going to come back. And I think there's opportunities to export goods, services. We saw some foreign direct investment come into India with North Carolina having an office in Bangalore. Infosys opened up a big global hub here. HCL has 1,000 employees or more in Cary, and you're starting to see that. But foreign direct investment has actually slowed down a little bit because of the pandemic. You're seeing actually more manufacturing facilities, even in economic development. The final point of it is the political, which I think we should talk about for a few minutes, and that's just, you know, kind of the world's largest democracy, the United States, the world's oldest democracy. How can these two countries work together to ensure that we can, be solid in our plans to deal with China? There's the Quad, Australia, Japan, India, the United States, which have had success with manufacturing vaccines, having the logistics to deal with vaccines. And so really that's the concern. And recently I've had some concerns about, India traditionally has been sort of a not really. I don't know what the word is. Is it non-secular, where they haven't really favored one religion, but now there seems to be more the move towards sort of a Hindu national state. So I'll throw it back to you guys. Just your thoughts about India in general from a U.S. foreign policy. Not really hearing much from President Biden on this issue. Of course, really not hearing much from him about anything these days. Uh, but that's part of the problem, right? But Shaquille, any thoughts about what I've said? And we'll probably have to reschedule our interview with Mr. Puri.
So, look, I will say from my knowledge of India, obviously being ethnically Indian, I do know a lot of Indians. India on paper looks like a place that can experience tremendous growth. Um, it has one of the world's greatest resources, in my opinion, and that is that they've got the world's largest population of under 30 or under 35-year-old people with college degrees, master's degrees, that sort of stuff. So very highly qualified people. Um, I think there is still some cultural problems in India. There's the caste system, which officially doesn't exist, but still does. There's still a lot of poverty there. But I think that India is growing, and I think that it represents at the moment on paper, it represents the country with the world's most potential to grow dramatically. I'm not sure that China, for example, will experience the same level of growth because China has already done a lot of things that it should do. And so China already has a lot of wealth, that China has already grown quite significantly. India really hasn't. And a lot of that has been because of currency controls, central planning, those sorts of things. And, where China has had that, China has done a very good job of mixing that in with free market ideas. India hasn't, but I think that India has a great amount of potential. I also just want to very quickly address the issue of China. It's very easy, I think, for us to sit here in the West and say, well, China this, China that, they're communist, they have all these horrible ideas. But when you go and speak to Chinese people, and I'm talking about Chinese people that are free to leave China. They leave, they come over to the West, they freely go back. They don't ask for asylum. They freely go back. And when you go and speak to them, they compare their lifestyles. They compare how the poor are treated. They compare a lot of different things to what happens in the West. And a lot of them are not persuaded that our ideas, when it comes to freedom and individual liberties, actually work. Now, I don't agree with that idea. I actually think that individual liberty is the heart's greatest desire, is freedom. But I think when you're comparing the two things, it's important to see what is actually helping the most amount of people. And this is the problem with crony capitalism. This is a problem that we have in the West. I don't think it's right for us to redistribute wealth. You guys know what my opinions are on many of the socialist policies of that are espoused by the more left-wing progressive Democrats. But we certainly need to do something about the poverty. We need to do something about not the gap. I'm not bothered about the gap, but the fact that there are so many people living in very wealthy countries, and this includes Canada and Australia, New Zealand. It includes England. It includes a lot of countries in Europe. The idea that there are so many people that don't have enough to feed their children, that have to rely on charity to clothe their children to send them to school. We need to do better than that. And I think that until we can really show, hey, this is a better way of going, we're not going to be able to persuade China or North Korea or many other countries that are very socialist and communist in their ideas. We're not going to be able to persuade them that this is a better way of going. I've been to China many times. The streets are very, very clean. I was in Shenzhen last time. The streets are clean. The people were very polite. It was a lovely place to visit. So, I think we need to work on that here in the West. Stand up for what we actually believe in and lead by example, as opposed to attacking China. And what I will say, and I've said this before, China, Belt and Road Initiative and all the other things that they're doing, they're acting in their self-interest. That if you're in charge of China, whether you were democratically elected or whether you're elected by the process that we have there, your job as a leader of that country is to stand up for Chinese people and to make China the best, most prosperous country that you can. What they're doing is exactly what they should be. What the United States and the West should be doing is doing the same thing, building ports, trading with everybody.
Well, we are so honored today to have. Thank you. So Sanjay is on his way. Sanjay, we have you with us today. Hopefully he'll turn his camera on. But folks, I just want to, today, first of all, let's do the reset. Today we celebrate India Republic Day, the 73rd India Republic Day, the day, January 26, 1950, when the nation of India ratified and signed their constitution and henceforth became a republic. Today, India is the world's largest democracy. We here in North Carolina and Morrisville and Cary are home to many Indian Americans, 55% of our population. And the Indian Americans have done very well in the world's oldest democracy, the United States of America. Today, we couldn't think of a better person to bring on Pod TV's World Edition, Sundi Roku, than Sanjay Puri, who's the chair of the U.S.-India Political Action Committee, the voice of Indian Americans across the United States of America. But he's also works really closely at the highest levels of government. Right now, he's working with the Biden administration on U.S.-India foreign policy. He took me to India in 2007, where I had the honor of meeting Narendra Modi when he was the chief minister of Gujarat. And he has been there for our community, not only in the United States, but all around the world. So I want to welcome him on the show. Sanjay, welcome. If you could turn your camera on, we could see you. If not, we'll just get you on the video. I don't know if you're calling from a phone, but welcome to the show.
Steve, thank you so much. I'm calling from my phone. It's a pleasure and an honor. And thanks for those very warm remarks. But I would say a lot to be said
I know
about
he's talking,
you and your...
but I don't think he's quite... He might have his headset in or something like that.
I can hear him.
We hear him.
Yeah.
Oh, do you?
Sanjay, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Sanjay, please, are you there?
No, I was saying that, yeah, I was saying, Steve, that your service to the community and to your state and the region also has to be recognized. We all do our part, and it's really an honor to be on your show, sir.
Oh, thank you, sir. We'll look forward to building a bright future with you. Is there any way you can turn your camera on, Sanjay, or no? You can't. You're on your phone, so that's fine. We'll
I'm
take
on
care of.
my phone, Steve, because now I'm
Okay,
just
okay. Well,
driving, but I'm
well, we
happy to
appreciate having
speak
you
to
on.
you, and
Well, we're honored,
absolutely.
sir. So, real quickly, we have 15 minutes. The main question that everyone is concerned about, Sanjay, is in the short time we have with you, is where is the U.S.-India relationship today? You're actively working with President Biden, and you know Vice President Harris personally. You actually know both of them personally. Worked with Biden when he was a senator and vice president. You worked with Obama. Where is the U.S.-India relationship today? How important is this relationship with everything going on with China and Russia? And where are the opportunities? Where are the challenges? And what are the things that we need to be thinking about this relationship?
Well, again, I think this relationship is a very strategic one. We started talking about it 20 years ago that, it's the largest democracy, probably the only democracy in that region, and also a vibrant economy, a generation of people that has grown up loving America. And we need a country where we share values of democracy, rule of law, capitalism. So that I think is very, very critical. Now, keeping in mind what's going on with China and Russia, I think it becomes even more important. I mean, India has had its share of skirmishes with China. As you know, last year they've had border issues going on. So the question becomes is, uh, we need a strong ally. It also, besides that, is a great economy for our goods and products. Also, as we diversify away from China and others from a supply chain, it becomes very, very critical when you start looking at 90% of our APIs of medicine come in from China. And India has also been a great partner in this whole COVID with the vaccines, with COVAX and others. So, I mean, there's many areas that we can collaborate on, Steve.
Okay,
Hey,
great. Yeah. So go ahead, Mark, please.
yeah, no, I had a quick question, and it was actually related to something that you just said, Sanjay, and everything. I know that both countries, both India and America, have been very big on green energy. I know that that's something that definitely Steve is a big fan of, and everything. And I did see that one of y'all's billionaires, Mr. Abani, has actually put in a lot of money into doing some renewable power projects in one of the Western Indian states, and they're hoping that they'll generate 1 million new jobs. So, just wondering what your thoughts are about this green energy initiatives and how it can help both countries, both India and the U.S. Because, like I said, that sounds like he was doing a lot to plant some money into the economy. I know that that's something that Biden has been talking about as well here. So, green energy does seem to be something that both countries recognize as something that needs to be addressed.
Great question,
Mark,
Mark.
that's an excellent question. Yeah, that's a great question. As you know, India is a big signatory to the COP26 and all the other climate change activities. They're really, really pushing because India relies on about over 70% of its need for energy from external sources. So it's really pushing heavily on solar. It's pushing on wind and hydrothermal and other energies. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity. Mark, India is moving towards electric vehicles very aggressively. 2030 they have some targets to meet there. There's a big investment in Gujarat, which is a state from the Prime Minister, where Mr. Ambani is putting a lot of investments, and where Steve visited. So, there is going to be significant opportunities in technology transfer. There's going to be significant opportunities in collaboration in new technologies, battery cells. There is obviously in the charging station infrastructure that India needs. So there is going to be a lot of opportunities for Americans to sell out there, for Indians to provide support India is going to be a big market for the United States as renewable energy becomes a big opportunity. So, Mark, I think you're absolutely right. This is going to be, besides technology, health. I think energy is going to become one of the defining areas for our collaboration.
Fantastic. We got about 5 more minutes with you, but I mean, this is technology. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you one question, and that is, we've talked a lot in the show about the decline of democracy around the world, but also in the U.S. You've been an immigrant from India. Sanjay was actually a founder of a very successful technology company. Are you concerned as you look inward about how divided America is? If is the perspective of people from India looking at America saying, there's riots in the capital, things like that? I mean, just what are your thoughts about that in terms of what we're looking at in the U.S. today?
Uh, One thing I can tell you is that America remains an ideal of democracy. Yes, uh, people do get concerned about challenges to the democracy. That's for sure. I do get asked. I was in India maybe about a month ago. So people do ask, but when they look around the world, when they look at what's happening around the world, America still seems like the beacon of hope. So I think there are questions and there are concerns, but it is still uh, people aspire uh, for the American ideal of democracy in many parts of the world. Obviously, India is very different than United States. It's got religious issues, it's got multiple religions, and other ethnic issues, etc. But I still think that America is still a big ideal, Steve, for most Indians.
Hey, Mr.
Okay.
Sanjay, just really quickly, what are some of the stereotypes that you find that people have as you do your work, and you've done it for decades now, about India that still surprise you, that those still exist in the American psyche? And what are some of the things that you do to address some of those stereotypes? Because I know a lot of people still, when they think of India, they do think of the caste system, and there are other things that may come to their mind as well. But I was just wondering, what are some of the stereotypes that you wish people did not have as much about your continent? And one of them is that it's a continent and it's made up of many countries. And I think sometimes people try to think of it as a one part of the world, and it is in the sense of that. But I do know that there are multiple countries, and the countries have different viewpoints and different strong points as well. But I was just wondering some of your stereotypes that you would like to see changed in the American psyche.
Well, Mark, that the stereotypes have gotten better. I mean, many years ago, I've been here basically grown up all my whole life. There was a lot of, well, let's put it this way, lack of awareness before. But now, I hardly come across anybody who's never dealt with an Indian professor or an Indian doctor somewhere
Yeah.
along the way, or an Indian technical person along the way. So that has made a huge shift. So it would be rare for me to find somebody who is not. Now, obviously, Indians come in all shapes, sizes, languages, etc. As you know, there is a big difference, and I think that a lot of people are not aware that within India there are so many languages, cultures, dialects, food, etc. So I think that's one perception that people have, and obviously that's changing with time. That people are getting more and more aware, and then
Yes.
they all think that we are all very smart, and I think that's a wrong perception too. It just happens to be that they deal with people like Steve maybe a lot, so that might be one of the issues.
Well, we know you got to run. We didn't ask other questions. I mean, I think the thing is, I think you
No,
summed it up well. There's opportunities, there's challenges. It's important, very important that the U.S. and the India have a strong relationship, right, to deal with what's going on in China, Russia, and
Absolutely.
they're two
and Steve,
democracies. Yeah.
And
Go
Steve,
ahead.
we actually went over, and part of that was our technical difficulties and everything. So if we have a few extra minutes with Mr. Sanjay, I am perfectly fine with us having that time to answer these very pertinent questions and everything. So, like I said, I'll leave it up to your discretion, but definitely if there's questions that are pertinent, and I know that this is a very important day in India, I'm willing to us to go over 10, 15, 30, that's even an
Well,
hour.
I've got another appointment actually at 11, but I can go maybe 5 minutes over, and then we can bring him back. I think 5 minutes would be good. U.S. India nuclear cooperation, Sanjay, you were pivotal in working on that deal when George Bush was president, George W. Bush. Is that continuing to evolve in terms of India's nuclear capability, space exploration capability? These are areas where the U.S. and India can really work together, correct?
Yeah, that was a landmark agreement because it was not just about nuclear, it was really about a strategic partnership that was built. It changed the dynamics of the relationship, and a lot of work has gone in there. India is working closely on space with the United States. It's also working on defense. They've been doing joint exercises. So there is work that is happening. They set up the Quad with Japan, Australia, US, and India. So a tremendous amount of work at a political level, cultural level, defense level, economic level is happening, Steve, as we speak. And the relationship is now beyond political parties. It doesn't matter if it's Democrats, Republicans, whether it's the BJP or Congress. It's taken on a life of its own. And a lot of the credit goes to Indian Americans like you, Steve, who have played a huge part in making that relationship happen.
Yeah,
So,
and the political Kamala Harris being vice president, that was a big deal, right? I mean, in terms of having
yes,
someone of an Indian heritage
huge.
becoming the vice president. We've got, people in Congress, people running for statewide offices. Now, I guess the final couple questions, there has been some concerns about, the rise of nationalism all around the world, but it does seem to be happening in India a little bit. Do you think that that's just part of the process? In terms of just people. We know that there's been issues with Kashmir and the border and autonomy. Are these things that the U.S. governments are just going to have to work with India on, as any country has growing pains?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with Steve, you have a country of 1.3 billion people. So just think
Mhm.
about it, a little over a billion than the population of the United States, with, as I said, many different languages, cultures, etc. And there are some historic borders that were set up after independence, which obviously have led to a lot of issues and things of that nature. But the question obviously is that you have a prime minister and a party that has been elected twice with a thumping majority. Now, obviously, the key tenets of democracy are a strong judiciary, a strong legislature, free press, and all those things. Now, there have been issues of, the press also being not as independent, etc. But you have a very strong judiciary. You have elections that are probably the largest in the world, would take a few months. Over 600 million people vote, close to 700 million people vote. It's almost 70% of electorate voting for it. So the question becomes is, yes, there are issues of rising nationalism, and which we have seen across the world when you look across many countries in Europe and Asia, and probably you could even say in the United States. But the democracy is a key tenet of India, just like it is of United States. So I, I believe that the tide tends to move and swing back, but the basic aspect of democracy uh, is very, very strong in India because that's just in the DNA of the people there, Steve.
Yeah, speaking of the tide and everything,
Yes.
how is India doing with its COVID crisis? I mean, it's the world's COVID crisis, but definitely I know that India's had some different waves and different things that have gone on. And I know that you just said that you recently came back. So how is India doing in terms of addressing these various variants? And here in America, I know there's a folks that are sometimes still very much in that anti-vax kind of sentiment. But I was wondering if that kind of sentiment was strong in India, or how just how you're just doing in terms of getting that large population vaccinated.
So, Mark, there is no anti-vax sentiment in India, as Steve would probably tell you. We all grew up in India, just not question. We get vaccines for chickenpox, TB, and things like that, and we nobody generally questions that. So that sentiment is not there. The question becomes is about health infrastructure in a country of 1.3 billion people, making
Right.
sure you get them the medicines they need, get them the vaccines they need, and the healthcare they need when they fall very sick. And I think the second wave hit India very hard.
Mhm.
There were a lot of people who fell sick, very sick. There were issues with oxygen and oxygen cylinders, and a lot of Indian Americans and good people like Steve uh, did their part. Obviously, the Omicron is something that has hit India, but the only good news about the Omicron is it's relatively mild, and India is dealing with it. Now you got to realize that India is probably one of the largest vaccine manufacturers. I mean, low-cost vaccine manufacturers. In fact, providing vaccines to rest of the world. And so,
Yes.
so far, things have been. Obviously, they're all dealing with it because people are now just tired, Mark, of lockdowns and things like that, because they had a complete lockdown in the first wave and a partial lockdown in the second wave. But now people just can't deal with being locked
Yeah.
up in home because the nature of the Indian people is such to be out socializing and things of that
So they are
nature, like
doing
most
they
human
are,
beings. So
there has been a
uh,
huge
I think
vaccine.
now,
Go ahead. Sorry.
yes, a huge vaccine over I would say 70% plus of the population has been vaccinated that is eligible for vaccines. So, I mean, you're talking huge numbers have been vaccinated, and now India is dealing with it, and people are dealing with it, Mark.
Well,
Well, I think my final question is, we're going to bring you back to talk about working with Joe Biden, maybe some insight in the Biden presidency. Do you believe he's in a tough spot now, Sanjay, or do you think that he's going to come back? These elections next year are going to be tough. His approval ratings aren't high, or do you think that Scrapping Joe is going to keep fighting and maybe he just needs to market his achievements a little bit better?
You know, we tend to look at elections and political events and weekly, monthly stuff. I mean, he's only been in office for a year. And last time I checked that he has a 4-year term, so people have to give him some time. And remember, he's dealing with real challenging circumstances with the COVID crisis, with supply chain issues, inflation issues. Now, you
Yes.
can say maybe to market his successes better. We passed.
Yes.
Has been vaccinated. Yeah, don't think
We're losing him a little bit.
yeah, sounds like it.
Sanjay,
Definitely.
well,
I
we're losing you. We're losing you a little bit,
I
but
I look at
yeah,
the big picture things now.
might be in a bad Wi-Fi spot.
Yeah, if he's driving, he might be in a bad Wi-Fi spot
Well,
and everything.
Sanjay, we're gonna stay with you for a minute, but we wanted to wish you a
Hurting.
happy 73rd India Republic Day. Hello.
Yeah, I think he's in a bad spot and everything as he's traveling and all of that.
All right,
But
well, folks, we want to thank Sanjay. If you hear us, we're going to end the show today. My final take is we just want to thank you so much for being with us. You're very insightful. Hopefully, we can bring you back in a few weeks to talk to us live in person. But just to get such a thought leader, he does work very closely with the president, the vice president, actively involved with the administration. Quite the guy to hobnob with when you're in Washington. I worked the room. He works the room better than any lobbyist I've seen this side of the Mason-Dixon line. I mean, it just he knows every senator, every congressman, and he's gotten a lot done for the Indian Americans, but also the U.S.-India relationship. So, from our family to yours at Pod TV, we want to wish everyone a happy India Republic Day. We'll be back tomorrow to talk to Jeremy Robbins from the American Immigration Council, former New American Economy. And we have Sanjay back. Sanjay, were closing out the show. We wanted to thank you for your insight and wish you a happy 73rd Indian Republic Day. But we want to thank you for everything you do for Indian American and U.S. and most importantly, the relationship between the world's oldest democracy and largest democracy, India.
Well, thank you so much, Steve, and thank Mark for what you're doing. Incredible show. Really loved being on it. Your questions, Mark. So keep on coming to your viewers. I learned a lot, and thank you for having me. A real honor, sir.
And starting in March, we'll be on Roku. We'll be on national TV. So hopefully, it will be kind of a moderate version of the Young Turks. Hopefully, you'll be able to turn on the YouTube TV on Roku, and you'll see us on TV. So that's exciting. So thank you so much.
Sounds great. Look forward to it. Absolutely.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. Bye.
Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
From our family to yours, we want to wish you a safe day. Mark, we sent the link tomorrow to Jeremy Robbins. I sent it to you. We'll see you tomorrow, hopefully on time. Sorry for the technical difficulties, folks, but we got it done. That's what counts. We played as a team. It was 3rd and long, and we scored a 1st down. May not have been pretty, but we won.
We still got the score in. We got our guest in. We got some interesting conversations, and we were able to actually still, as you said, on the 3rd and long, at least get to the first down.
We got it in the end zone, right? A win is a win. A win is a win. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
how it's done.
All right, I got to go get to work. I got to make that thing called money, a little green. Got to get out of this virtual office and get motivated. Thank you all so much. See you tomorrow morning, Mark. Thanks.
See you tomorrow morning.